Coming to you from the mountains and the plain. The only conservative voices brave enough to push back. This is the Conservative Daily Podcast with Joe Otto.
That's what the Second Amendment was designed to do. If you're going to do something to nullify or take away my rights under the Constitution, come get it.
Max McGuire.
When you look at politicians on the left, they need to convince people that they are victims.
A resistance to the resistance. And now your hosts, Joe Otto and Max McGuire.
And welcome back to another edition of the Conservative Daily Podcast. My name is Max McGuire. Filling in for Joe Otto is friend of the show, Keith Jones. Keith, how's it going?
It's Friday, and it's super.
Yeah, it's a super Friday. That I can actually agree with for once. Sorry, I'm just sharing. We're going live at two different points right now, so it's a little complicated, but I'm sharing a link to this and that one, so it's just a little bit confusing. But we're all set. We're live. Today we're talking about, I don't know if people watched yesterday in Major League Baseball. It was a disgrace. It was an absolute disgrace what happened. We're going to play some of the clips, and I'm not just talking about Anthony Fauci throwing out the first pitch. If you can call that a pitch and you can call that a throw. I'm not just talking about that. I'm talking about the BLM mob taking over Major League Baseball, America's pastime, falling to the BLM activists. You had Black Lives Matter's logo spray painted onto the mound. Disgraceful stuff. And listen, if people want to protest, fine, right? But these are multi-million-dollar athletes protesting against what they call as inequality. It's just, I have a hard time stomaching it. And it's not saying that people shouldn't be able to protest. If you want to protest, fine. But you don't have the right to infringe on my pastimes. If I want to get away from the politics and just enjoy sports, I want that. I don't want politics involved. So we're going to be talking about that, talking about Fauci, talking about sports in general, because yesterday's big story obviously was that was the kneeling and whatnot. Keith, do you have a chance to watch any of the game?
No, I saw the pitch, the quote unquote pitch from Fauci, which was ridiculous. But I 100% agree. At this point in time, there are very few sports that I can actually watch because they have become the injection of politics into sports makes it not interesting. It's not fun to watch anymore. So, I hesitate to go so far as, some commentators have said, just shut up and shoot the basketball or play, right? But just the level of hypocrisy that you see, and you mentioned just one facet of it. These are these are multimillionaires, they're athletes, right? And understand that they're being rewarded for their talent. They are the epitome of the meritocracy, right? And they're basically advocating for a group that is the inverse of a meritocracy, who wants socialism and Marxism. That's BLM stated goals, right? So you're advocating for the exact opposite of what made you the millions of dollars and gave you the platform to then advocate for. If anything, these people, they're the epitome of the, like I said, of the meritocracy. They should be all for it. The best players, the highest skilled people, and I've said this before on the show, you don't become the highest paid athlete because you're the highest paid athlete. You become the highest paid athletes because you're the best at what you do, right? And you would think that what they would be advocating for is for people to work as hard as they worked to get to where they are, right? Equal opportunity of the starting line, not the guaranteed finish line. Because equality, I can tell you,
opportunity, not equality of outcome.
I can guarantee you, I don't make as much money as they do, right? So I'll take a piece. I'll take my piece, right? I'll take my piece.
Yeah. It was fine. Well, let's start getting into some of these clips because, I'm a lifelong Yankees fan, lifelong baseball fan. I was so excited for baseball to come back because we don't have any sports, right? I'm sick and tired of turning on the TV and seeing professional athletes playing video games, which is what we've been watching over the past couple months. So excited for baseball to come back. And when I finally see it come back, when I finally get a chance to watch, this is what I see. Let's go to cut one.
In honor of the service and sacrifice of healthcare workers across the country, and in memory of all those who have lost their lives during the COVID-19 pandemic. We welcome Dr. Anthony Fauci, Director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, to throw out the ceremonial first pitch. Catching his pitch is Nationals pitcher Sean Doolittle. Dr. Fauci, when you're ready, it's your pitch. Dr. Anthony Fauci.
That was it. That's what I turned on the TV to watch last night. I turned on the TV to watch Anthony Fauci completely miss the plate. I mean, you couldn't get farther left if you were AOC, right? I mean, that's as far left as you can get in Washington, D.C., and that's saying something. He was off completely. Let's throw it again. Let's throw it up again, looped. Let's go to cut 2, just in case people missed that.
Oh, come on! You got to use the lower.
It's nowhere near.
You got to use the lower body.
And here we go. Just in case people can't see the ball, maybe it's moving too fast because the gun clocked it at 12 miles per hour. By the way, just in case it's moving a little too fast, we do have a clip of the tail being added so you can see it. Let's go to cut 3.
Oh yeah. Oh, beautiful.
Oh yeah, and anyone listening to the podcast, we're watching Anthony Fauci throw the ball into the on-deck circle, nowhere near home plate, and they put on the crowd noise for him to make him feel all special. But this is why I get so pissed off. I'm sitting down, I crack open a beer, I'm ready to watch one of the first live sports games that we've been able to watch so far this year, and Anthony Fauci is their guest of honor. And I mean, he is as accurate from the mound as he is predicting COVID.
Bingo.
Yeah, no, it's true.
I know.
They're honoring him. I mean, he's there. He's 60 feet away from the nearest person, and he's wearing a mask. 60 feet. 60 feet. That's 10 times social distancing. Here's the amazing part. Let's throw up image number 3. This is what he looked like afterwards when he was sitting in the stands. Oops. He didn't even have the mask on.
Oops.
So when he's 60 feet away from someone, he wears the mask because he's on camera. When he's up in the stands, right? By the way, he's one of the people that recommended, no, sports arenas cannot open to the general public. It's too dangerous. And yet he thinks the cameras aren't watching. He's up there, no social distancing, mask off. And if you think, oh, maybe he was just eating something, let's throw up image number 4, taken a little bit later. Image number 4, not only is he not eating something, but the woman next to him took off her mask. And listen, I'm not trying to like make this out to be a big deal. I mean, it is because he's a hypocrite. But this is how crazy this is. One more, throw up image number 5, just to show you the side by side. When he's on the mound, 60 feet away from someone, has to wear the mask. When he's up in the crowd, the only person allowed to be in the stadium is Anthony Fauci right now. If you're not on the team, the only civilian allowed in the stadium is Anthony Fauci, and I guess his guests. No social distancing, no masks. And that's not to say that he should have to wear a mask, but if he's going to demand that we all wear masks, he should wear one himself.
Yep.
It's clearly, what am I missing here, Keith?
Well, clearly he's making a choice. Let's start with the pitch, and then we'll get to him sitting in the stands. I've seen some really cool opening pitches. I think the most memorable one in my life that I ever saw was when George Bush threw the one after 9/11 at Yankee Stadium, and he threw a bullet, right? A bullet, and it was a strike for sure.
That. We have that. Let's play that clip, and we can talk over it.
Yeah.
Let's go to cut 8.
So
for tonight's ceremonial first pitch.
Hard to talk over.
Can you?
And please welcome the President of the United States.
Love him or hate him, right? Can you imagine the cojones it takes to walk out on that field?
I was at that game.
Shortly after 9/11, and look at everybody in the stands. Like,
I was at that game. I was in the upper deck, right on one of the last rows of the upper deck. I believe near the left field foul pole.
This is how you throw a pitch. This is how you do it. And look at it.
He's waving to the crowd.
Awesome. Use your lower body. Bam. Strike.
Right.
Love it.
Wearing a flak jacket. Now wait for this. We're not going to cut yet. Wait to hear what the crowd starts chanting.
Mr. President.
Chick coming in a second.
There it is.
Chanting USA.
Yeah. Look
as
at
the president of the United States, leader of the free world. Keith, have you ever seen the behind the scenes of how that all?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Shaped up.
It's amazing. Yeah, and that's why I said what cojones that man had, right, for doing it when he did it, and all the people being there, right, just giant New Yorkers, giant middle finger, right, and then fast forward 19 short years, right, and now we have empty stadiums. We have empty stadiums, right? We have Black Lives Matter painted on the back of the mound. We have the head of infectious diseases.
Let's throw that up while you keep talking. Let's
for the United States coming up. He can't throw a ball, right? So we look at the difference between what Americans basically consider normal and allowable today versus what Americans giving a giant middle finger to terrorists, right? 20 years ago. To me,
you're right.
That to me, and the old adage, right, when you go out to do those ceremonial pitches, right, you have nothing to gain, because if you do what Fauci did, then you become a YouTube sensation for your inability to throw a baseball, right? And for all the people
they set it up. They set it up like he used to play baseball.
Well, I know.
There was a whole pregame that I didn't want to show because ESPN owns the rights to it. But then, he used to play baseball. We have
clearly
Fauci saving lives, and he gets out there.
Yeah.
Let's do it one more time. Let's throw up cut 2 as we keep talking. He gets up there, and he...
No. No.
Look at this idiot.
No.
I mean, that's almost... Do you think that's as bad as Obama's, or do you think it's worse? We don't have Obama's, but...
It's probably worse. Obama's wasn't great, but I think, credit where credit's due. That's pretty bad.
That's pretty bad. That's completely bad. That's very, very bad.
bad.
Well, so before we keep going, I want to mention that we just hit 29 people on the Facebook live stream. We were streaming at the same time for Kelly McEnany's press conference, so we're kind of competing against ourselves here. But we're a little bit below that now. We're about to hit the amount of people that Joe Biden had on his last live stream.
Oh, yeah.
So this is my goal in all of these is to make sure that we surpass Joe Biden. Because if we can beat a presidential candidate, then we're doing a good job. So please do hit the share button. Please do like the video, and please do leave some comments in the comment section. But the share is the most important. Hit the share button so we can keep leaving Sleepy Joe in the dust. Before we talk about the kneeling, I want to show what Donald Trump was doing yesterday, because Donald Trump didn't throw out the first pitch. People are saying that the Nationals chose not to invite him, chose to invite Fauci instead to make a political statement. This is why I freaking hate professional sports these days. You can't turn on a game without getting politics spoon-fed to you. Same with ESPN. But so they snubbed Trump. Trump's going to be throwing out the first pitch at Yankee Stadium on August 15th. But they snubbed him at the Nationals Park. This is what he was doing instead. He was hanging out with Mariano Rivera at the White House with some Little Leaguers. Let's go to cut 6.
Oh, the king of the cutter.
Yeah. Mr. Sandman.
Yeah.
So Trump's getting his glove. The kid just gave him a glove. He actually knows what to do with it, unlike Fauci. And I imagine how nerve-wracking this is. You're having a catch with Mariano Rivera, and the press of the world is watching. And he threw it right to him.
Oh, he gets the underhand back?
Yeah, he got the underhand. Oh. No, Trump.
There it is.
Now he gets the overhand.
There you go.
Yeah, so Trump's playing catch with Mariano Rivera throwing it right to him, not throwing it across his body into the dugout. We can cut that there. But, it's just the night and day. If you're going to have someone throw out the first pitch, you want someone like George W. Bush, who hits the strike zone with the world watching at a time when we needed it most. That's who you want. You don't want Fauci, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's so...
Or you get
go
Simone
ahead.
Biles to do like a triple backflip round off and then lob it into the catcher. Like at least there's like acrobatic gymnastics going on. That was cool.
Something exciting. Or if you have like the Make-A-Wish situation where it's a kid who obviously can never make it, but you're making that person's day, fine. If it's someone in a wheelchair, I don't expect them to throw heat over the plate, right? I don't expect it. But when you're Fauci, when you have full use of all of your limbs and all of your faculties, and you're not even pitching from the rubber, that pitch was embarrassing. Again, we're almost reaching the point of beating Joe Biden's last live stream, so please do hit the share button so we can beat Joe Biden.
But look, Max, before you go on, right? You said it. This was a political statement, right? So the hilarity of your comment earlier, it was a political statement. It was a failure of a political statement because the pitch was so bad, and it was wildly, wildly left. I mean, the trifecta
as far left as you can go.
Trifecta of awful.
Any further left, and he would be throwing it to first base.
And frankly,
that's what we're at here.
Right? The Nationals won the World Series last year. That should have been a party, right? You should not be making political statements. You won the World Series last year, which was awesome, right? Because, I mean, I certainly wasn't rooting for Houston. Who did they play? Dodgers, Houston? Who was it? I forget.
Well, Houston beat the Yankees. It was Houston versus the Nationals.
I remember that correctly.
Houston got accused of cheating.
Cheaters.
Because they were cheaters. They were basically stealing pitches, stealing the pitch signals.
Mr. Producer, were you banging on a trash can over there? Was Max throwing an off-speed pitch? Got it. Yes, cheaters. Right? Cheaters. Politics and
it's
sports.
like whenever the changeup is coming, all of a sudden they start like banging stuff. You're like, well, they're stealing the signals. It's obvious. Everyone knew it. No, I didn't want I didn't want Houston to win at all. No. I mean, I kind of wanted them to win because I felt like they would have a better chance of going to the White House. I mean, that's how stupid this is all getting.
See,
right? When I'm looking at the teams, I'm like, okay, well, I don't really care which one wins, but I know one team will go to the White House, the other one will make a political statement out of it.
Yeah.
I want the one that's not going to make a political statement out of it. But even that's me politicizing it. I mean, I feel dirty. I don't like this. But honestly, Keith, what made it worse was turning on batting practice.
Oh.
Batting practice was far worse yesterday than Anthony Fauci. People don't know, batting practice is when the players come out on the field and they warm up. They take some swings. They warm up their arms. This is what it looked like at the Yankees game and at the San Francisco Giants game. Let's throw up image number 2. Major League Baseball now has their players wearing Black Lives Matter shirts.
Yeah.
During their warm-ups.
Yeah.
They're wearing Black Lives Matter shirts on. It's not just a Yankee thing, not just a Giant thing. Like George Steinbrenner is rolling in his grave seeing this. Mm-hmm. I mean, George Steinbrenner, when he ran the Yankees, he's the man who made Johnny Damon cut his hair.
Yeah. Because
he looked like a hippie, right? He is rolling in his grave. But that is what they're doing. They're politicizing it. They're politicizing the game. And then we'll throw this up again. Image number 1. I'm watching the game and I'm like, I thought I'm having a dyslexic moment. Did they misspell MLB? Is that reversed for some like mirror image? No, instead of doing MLB, they spray painted BLM on the pitcher's mound so that every pitch you can see BLM on screen. And they know exactly what they're doing. They put it on the back left of the mound so you can see it when ESPN's doing the behind the pitcher shot. It's by design.
Yep.
I hate this. I hate that I can't watch sports without having politics shoved down my throats. I do this show every day in the weekday. I want to be able to just turn off politics every once in a while, but it's following me everywhere. It follows you to the Tony Awards, right? The Grammys, the Academy Awards. You can't watch anything these days without politics following you.
Yeah, it's in movies, it's in video games, it's in books that you read and children's books that you check out from the library. It's everywhere. And look, I want to be really clear. Each one of those, every athlete, right, when they are out and about as an American citizen, let's just assume they're all American citizens. I know that they're not, but let's not get into semantics. Every one of those athletes has the right to say whatever they want, right? So I want to be really clear about that, right? When they're walking around, somebody asks them a question, they can say whatever they want, right? What I object to is the politicizing the game, the sport itself, right? So if someone chose to wear that shirt right? That Black Lives Matter shirt, and Major League Baseball hadn't granted their ability to do it, right? They would get fined, right? In the NFL, players get fined for wearing shoes that are out of for wearing socks incorrectly.
Even socks,
right?
if you're wearing the wrong kind of socks. Yeah.
Remember, I forget which team it was. Maybe it was the Packers. It was somebody, and they wanted. And the Steelers tried to do this too. They wanted to honor a coach. Somebody had died in their organization, and they wanted to put a patch of like that guy's number or his initials, and the NFL wouldn't let him. Right. So you have to understand what I'm talking about is not the players. The league itself is politicizing its own league, and you have to ask yourself a question: what do they think? Do they think that the general American is watching is more likely to support them in their league or less likely to support them in the league when they do things like this? Because you couldn't do it as a player and get away with it unless the league sanctioned it. So I think it'd be funny, quote unquote, not haha funny, but I think it would be an interesting thing if some reporter asked one of those players, do you support the dissolving of the nuclear family?
Nuclear family.
Do you support that?
Do you support Marxism?
Do you support
and that's where this
Marxism?
Gets weird. That's where this gets weird, because if they had forced them to wear Republican Party T-shirts, they'd be criticized. If they had forced them to wear Democrat Party T-shirts, they'd be a little less criticized, but still criticized. Black Lives Matter, as we've covered on this show, is a Marxist organization run by a woman named Susan Rosenberg, who is a terrorist. She was an active member of a revolutionary left-wing movement that was responsible for bombing U.S. government buildings and committing armed robberies. She was a terrorist. She is in charge of the organization that runs BLM, Black Lives Matter, the actual organization, the one that's raking all these millions of dollars. It is a Marxist organization, wants to dissolve the nuclear family, right? And it's being run by a domestic terrorist. And here, the league is forcing players to wear Black Lives Matter T-shirts. It's not a choice, because if it was a choice, one of them at least wouldn't have worn it. But every single player out there on for the warm-ups was wearing it. Mm-hmm. You know that it's not a choice, because when it comes to the choice of whether to kneel or stand for the national anthem, you can see it. Let's play cut 5. This was at the San Francisco Giants game during the anthem. I can't watch it. I don't want to watch it, right? We've had this conversation before. I have not watched a regular season NFL game since the kneeling BS started. And I'm a better person for it. I've picked up more hobbies. I've learned more skills. I've spent more time with my family, right? Football, I enjoy football, but watching football every weekend was consuming way too much of my time. And losing that has actually made me a better person, I think. I never thought this would infect baseball. I knew it was going to infect basketball, right? Like, we know that they're talking about putting Black Lives Matter on the court. I get that, and I'm not interested in that. I didn't like basketball to begin with. I'd watch the playoffs if it gets interesting, but they've turned me off there. Hockey, I'm hoping that hockey stands their ground.
Yeah.
I mean, the old joke with hockey is the only thing black is the puck. That's changing. They do have black players now. They never used to. Yeah. Hopefully you don't see Black Lives Matter right on center ice or right at the blue line. But the NFL, baseball, you see it in Major League Soccer. You're going to probably see it if this thing keeps going in the next Olympics.
Yep.
It's insane.
It happened. It happened for anybody that's listening that watches the English Premier League. It happened there. They have it patched on their shirts. Black Lives Matter. The first game that they played after the season resumed, which was about a month ago, all the players' last names were removed from their shirts, and it instead said Black Lives Matter. Right. So, so frankly, I mean, I stopped watching. Right. I canceled. I'm with you, Max. I canceled my so the team where I live. I can't watch the team that I like. And actually where I live, all the people that surround me like a team that I loathe. So, right, it's kind of hilarious. And so I have a TV. I have DirecTV because you have to have DirecTV in order to get NFL Sunday Ticket, right? So I bit the bullet. paid for it for an exorbitant amount of channels that I don't need.
Oh, it's a
right?
lot. It's a lot of money.
And that way I could watch the football games of the team that I liked, right? And then we started this whole national anthem protesting stuff, right? The actions, right? Again, on the field. Off the field, do your thing, man.
Do whatever you want.
Thing. On the field, come on. And so I called and canceled because it auto renews, right? And I called and canceled. So I was talking to this lovely lady, right? We were having a nice conversation as she was plugging everything into the computer. She asked me, why are you canceling this service? And I said, because number one, I don't think I'm interested. I'm not sure they're actually going to play, right? And if they do play, I think what will actually happen is the NFL will stagger more of their games, because I don't know if college football is going to happen, which means they'll play more games on the weekend, which means the teams that I like, I'll have a higher chance of actually seeing them. And then I said, but at the same time, I don't think I'm actually going to watch, because I'm tired of everything that I do having to revolve around politics. At this point in time, the only place that I can go where we don't have a pervasive amount of politics injected into everything in every second is when I'm having conversations with my 3-year-old. It's like the only time. Max,
Just wait until your 3-year-old starts saying Black Lives Matter.
Yeah, exactly. So we're having this conversation, and you mentioned the NBA and the NBA talking about putting Black Lives Matter on the court. These are the same people, right, who stand up or kowtowed to China, right? Remember when the Houston Rockets guy, the guy who was in the front office, tweeted something about Hong Kong and Hong Kong protesters? He stands with the people of Hong Kong. And then China went nuts, pulled all Rockets gear from their stores, and then the NBA just basically
just because one employee expressed his political opinion.
So the NBA came out with this great idea. They were going to allow you to buy custom jerseys, right? So you can pick any team jersey you want. And
they've let you do that for a while, yeah.
Yeah, but they made a campaign about it, right? And you can put anything you want on the back of the jersey except Free Hong Kong. You can put anything else on there. And then they had the audacity. They had the audacity to say that it was a bug in the system. It was an error in the system. And we fixed the error.
Or that it was the number of letters.
No. We fixed the error, okay? And then we canceled the program. You can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
Like that.
But you could do F police.
Yeah.
Actually spelling out the F word. You could
Absolutely.
say kill police. You could say kill all pigs. You could do a lot of things on it.
Yeah.
But you couldn't say free Hong Kong.
No.
And that's why this is all so it's so obviously political. Because if this was just an issue of free speech, we're going to let people speak their mind during games, then you'd be allowed to protest for Hong Kong. Right? You'd be allowed to protest against China, but the NBA doesn't want to lose their China money. If it was just about letting people do what they want, then every baseball player yesterday wouldn't have been forced to wear the Black Lives Matter T-shirt. I mean, we look at this. Let's play this cut. This was the Yankee game. The players didn't kneel during the anthem. They kneeled during a moment of silence before the anthem. Let's play this cut 4. So that is they're all holding this black rope, I guess symbolizing Black Lives Matter, and every single player on both teams up and down the baselines and around home plate, all lined up. They're all taking a knee for I think it was like 20, 30 seconds. That is not organic, right? That is not organic. That is them being told this is what you're going to do.
Right.
You're all going to kneel. Because if it was organic, I guarantee you that there'd be at least one person who wouldn't want to do that.
Right.
Right?
Max,
It's not organic.
Max, think about how silly this is. Okay, so these billion-dollar organizations, these billion-dollar owners, right? These multi-million-dollar players, okay? They're making a political statement, and they're doing it on purpose. This is not an organic thing, right? This is something that is being staged. It's being staged, okay? You guys, we covered the story, okay? You have covered this story, that there is a majority of people. The only, from far left, moderate, right, or left-leaning liberals, right, to moderates, left and right-leaning, to right-leaning, to far right and others, right? When you break, there was a survey and you broke up all these people. And the only group, out of all the groups that I just mentioned, the only group that responded to the survey question, do you feel free to explain or espouse your political opinions? The only group that said yes was the far left. Everybody else, a majority of including liberals.
Yeah.
Classic.
And did you see that the only group, I think it was that poll or a different poll, the only racial group, only demographic group in America that hated their own race, do you know what it was?
White people. That's my guess.
White female liberals.
Yeah.
White female liberals are the only people in America who hate their own race.
Right. So Max, right? These owners, these are billionaires, right? These are millionaire players who rely on revenue sharing from the league, from fans, from merchandise, from all of it. It's a business, right? It's a business. Yeah. Okay. So you're basically making a political statement that the vast majority of people in this country are openly saying in surveys they're not willing to either support or tell you whether or not they do or don't support it.
Yeah.
So you're talking to the fringes of the fringe. And
the majority of people in both parties have political opinions that they don't want to tell anyone.
Yes. Okay.
Because they're afraid.
But the only people who don't are the people who support the stuff that you just showed on the screen, right? And they're the smallest minority of people on the left. So who are these business owners? Who do they think is turning on to their sports, and who do you think they're turning off? Look, Max, the statement, go woke, get broke, right?
Yeah.
It's happening in movies. No one watches this woke garbage in movies. They make no money, right?
Yeah.
One of the most successful movie franchises of all time went woke, and the third film that they released was the lowest grossing film of all of them. And you know what I'm talking about, Disney, okay? Secondly, you have video game companies going woke and going broke. You can read.
Well, have you heard what happened with Disney with their log flume with Splash Mountain?
Yes.
Have you been following any of that? So it's really, really funny. It's not funny because I love Splash Mountain. It's actually sad to hear that they're trying to cancel Splash Mountain. Before I tell the story of how Disney is now can't afford to change Splash Mountain, I want to again remind everyone to hit the share button. We are now at double the number of people watching this live stream that Joe Biden had on his earlier this week. So please hit that share button. I want to triple it. I want to quadruple it before the end of the day today. So please hit the share button so we can leave Sleepy Joe in the dust. So what's really interesting with Splash Mountain, anyone who doesn't know, it's a Splash Mountain. It's a ride at, I think it's in Walt Disney World. I think it's in Disneyland. It's also on their foreign overseas parks. So Splash Mountain, it's a log flume ride. You get on the log and you go through the ride, and it tells the story of Brer Rabbit. Brer Rabbit is just a rabbit. He's not a racist. He's just a rabbit. And the rabbit is just trying to get where he needs to go, right? And he has these different animals chasing, I think it's the fox chasing him around. He's trying to escape him. Eventually, the rabbit escapes and everyone's happy. It's zippity-doo-dah. I can't sing it because it's copyrighted. Zippity-doo-dah, zippity-day. You know the song. Everyone's singing, everyone's happy at the end of the log flume. Someone said that was racist. Mm-hmm. Why? Because that story was told in a movie in which the storyteller was a freed slave. Mm-hmm. And they felt that the movie was racist. Not the cartoon. The scene where the cartoon is described was racist. There's nothing racist about the cartoon itself. So they say, okay, they bow down to the mob. This is what I mean by go woke, get broke. Disney bows down to the mob and says, you know what? We are changing it. We are changing Splash Mountain, and we're going to make it Princess and the Frog themed instead. A little Bayou action. Okay, fine. The Imagineers at Disney flipped out. They're saying, what? You just want us to overnight change all of these animatronics? Change everything without any concept art or anything? Like, we can't do that. Disney went to their Tokyo location, which is the Tokyo theme park. It actually isn't owned by Disney. It's owned by another company. The other company said, no, we are not letting you do this. We are keeping Splash Mountain here as is. So now Disney can't put out any of their movies because the movie theaters aren't open. So they're hemorrhaging money. They're only allowed to have so many people into their parks, so they're not getting revenue there. They actually don't have the money coming in to afford the retrofit for Splash Mountain. So it's being pushed off a year. So you have Disney executives saying this is racist, we're sorry, but now saying we don't have the money to fix it. So they're too poor to stop their own alleged racism.
Right.
Get woke, go broke.
Go broke. Look, do these are supposedly successful business people, right? They have earned their status in the world because of their ability to make decisions and build something, whether you agree or not. I'm drastically oversimplifying, okay? But do they not understand that the vast majority of people don't live their life on Twitter? And listen, Max, I'm not less likely to go to Walt Disney World in Orlando, right, today than I was yesterday because they're making this change. But I will roll my eyes, right? And so over time, as all of this continues to happen, and you see businesses, posting signs and placards and changing things and making social media virtue signaling stands, right? You're talking to the fringes of the fringe. And I would guarantee the vast majority, look, we did a show earlier this week where we basically said, look, we're going to show you stuff that's happening in Portland because the media is not showing you. They're not showing you.
What happened today? We were streaming this earlier. The White House press conference, Kayleigh McEnany, during her press conference, she took a step back and she played the clips of what was happening in Portland. The mainstream media that was covering the press conference cut away. Did not show the White House produced video, which wasn't edited. It wasn't deceptively edited. It was just a compilation of clips. The mainstream media cut away because they didn't want the American people to actually see what was happening in Portland.
Right.
If they're refusing to share it, they don't want the White House to get around their ban.
Right. So we have this fringe group of people who feel confident to be able to share their opinions. And then we have business owners, right, and leaders who are saying, okay, well, because you're saying it, everybody else must believe it, right? But ESPN has hemorrhaged its audience. It's gone. Their audience is gone. Who watches? I can't tell you the last time I turned ESPN on for anything other than an hour into some sort of sports broadcast so I could fast forward through all the crap, right? NBC.
If I could pay my cable company more money to not have ESPN put in my home, I would do it.
I would do it. So it doesn't ever show up. I used to start my channel searches by going to that station first, right? Because you didn't want to go before it because that's CNN. But then I don't even do that anymore, right? I've moved the lineup. NBC,
you don't even accidentally want to watch it.
No, accidentally don't even. So NBC, remember Bob Costas did his soliloquy and lectured all of us during a Sunday night football game, right? Get out of here, right? Can't I watch a game where I watch people who are the highest, best at their sport? They're the most talented athletes on earth at what they do. Can I just watch and marvel at how talented they are at things that I only wish that I could do? Like the amazing, one of the things that I think is so amazing when you watch the Olympics is that the camera technology is so great. When you're watching Usain Bolt sprint 100-yard dash and they run it in super slow motion and you just see his body is it's amazing, his muscles and the way that they can, he can control himself. The gymnasts, and when they're flipping through the air, right? The divers, when they're jumping off that stuff is phenomenal, right? And it gets ruined when before I can consume these things that only a few people on the planet can actually do at that level. I'm resolved to the thing that everybody thinks they can do, which is complain and be victims and politicize everything so they can shame me into... I'm not going to be shamed into watching baseball. In fact, I'll probably not watch a single game, right? I'm not going to watch football. And you're right. The only thing that's left is hockey. Fingers crossed on August 1st that I don't, for some reason, see Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin kneeling before a game.
If anyone does it, it'd be Sidney Crosby because he's an ass. He'd be the one to do it.
You know what would be funny, Max? Somebody kneels down during the national anthem on one team, right, and no one else does, and then when the first shift happens, when that guy comes out, he just has to fight. That would be a very hockey thing to occur.
Yeah.
So maybe it will happen.
I don't think that Sidney Crosby can kneel down. Doesn't he suffer from vertigo?
I don't know, but he's better than whoever you're rooting for.
He was having. I know he missed a few games because he was having some spontaneous vertigo. So I don't even know if he can kneel, but if he can find a way, he'll do it.
It happens when you have to lift the Stanley Cup above your head as many times as he has. I'm just saying.
Yeah. I've drank out of the Stanley Cup, and it wasn't because he won it. Did you see what happened yesterday with Washington Redskins?
Yes.
Josh, Mr. Producer, let's put up the image. After a long debate over what Washington's new football team name was going to be, because they can't be the Redskins because it's too racist, they have now settled on Washington Football Team.
Yep.
That is their name this year. They do not have a mascot. They are just called the Washington Football Team. So when they play another team, it'll be Eagles versus football team.
Yep.
It'll be Giants versus football team. Right? Yep. The reason that they couldn't come up, I mean, this is so funny. They get shamed into changing their name. The left has been trying to force them to change their name for decades.
Yeah.
And you would think that they'd have, okay, you know what? If the day ever comes where we're forced, this is our fallback. You'd think they'd have their T's crossed, their I's dotted, they'd be ready to go. But no, in the decades that people have been trying to force them to change their name, these trademark trolls have been trademarking Washington plus every animal name. Washington plus like every possible mascot. Someone owns the trademark for every conceivable Washington Redskins name. Because they knew one day would come, they'd have to change it. And when that happens, they're going to have to pay that person a lot of money for the trademark. So one of the reasons that they had to go with Washington Football Team as their stand-in name for this season is because they couldn't get the trademark to anything else that they wanted because someone else owned it and they wanted a lot of money for it.
Yep.
So not only were they shamed into abandoning the Redskins logo, the Redskins name, which most Native Americans did not find racist.
Correct.
Right? I mean, it's just like the Blackhawks, the Chicago Blackhawks, the local Blackhawk tribe does not find it racist. They like the good publicity. Not only were they shamed into changing their name, but the trademark trolls stole every other possible name. Yep. So now they have no name. They're just the Washington Football Team.
Yep.
Go get woke, go broke.
I love
it.
How long until the Florida State is going to have to change their name from the Seminoles, right? How long?
I think that they should change it to the Criminals.
How long?
With OLES.
How long before the Chiefs are required to change their name to the Chefs, right? The Texas Rangers.
Braves.
The Texas Rangers, right? The Rangers.
Yeah, no, they want to change those. They want to change those because the Rangers were racist.
Right. So there's not a single, sports team name that you can come up with, right? That you couldn't make some sort of imaginary connection, 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, to call it racist and offensive, right?
Yeah.
So then, right, you joked about it. You put the meme up a couple of weeks ago, right? There's still Washington. So is Washington. I mean, according to people and pundits on CNN, Washington was a racist, right? So
the joke was
the DC football team?
The joke was after their long debate that people were joking that what if they came out and said instead of the Washington Redskins, they became the DC Redskins. Imagine how the left would just burn down the city over that. I'm shocked that they did not have a fallback name, that the only thing they had the trademark to was Washington Football Team. That
Right.
It just seems not only are they completely lacking in imagination, but they didn't even have the foresight to know that eventually they were probably going to be wusses and cave to the leftist mob.
Right.
No,
So
it's incredible.
So we've just spent so much time. We've just spent the last 5 months without sports, and we finally are starting to get sports back, right? Where you can actually. I don't know about you, but there's nothing better than the excitement of a close game and your team rooting against somebody, rooting for somebody, right? So we get golf back, right? Which, all right, that's fine. It can kind of hang out and it can be on in the background, right? We got the Premier League that came back, which was exceedingly boring when they tried to pipe in sound. So I didn't want to
It's
do
so
that
creepy.
anymore. It is weird.
It's so creepy
right?
when you know the stadium's empty,
Yeah.
but they're piping in crowd noise.
Yeah. So
I mean, it's so creepy. Keep
so
going.
now we get baseball back, and the first thing we do in baseball is make political statements, right? We don't even have football back yet, and all we're talking about is politics related to football. We don't even
people in the comments.
playing.
People in the comment section are writing down the names that they think Washington should go with. Sherry says they could be the Washington Pencil Necks for Adam Schiff. The Washington Wokesters. Evelyn says they could be the Washington Fairies, the Washington Cream Puffs. I think that is an insult to cream puffs. I personally like cream puffs. I would not want them to be. I would hate to see. Can you imagine if they just had a cream puff on the helmet?
Yeah, I mean,
it'd be better than the football team.
It'd be awesome. That would be fantastic.
Team.
I thought for a moment that
who are we playing this week? Football team. Oh, okay. Thank you. That's so helpful. Thank you.
Yeah,
that's what they're going with.
Yeah. So we got to the point where we have completely lost the farm. Right? We're not even talking about the sport anymore. We're not even talking about how good these guys and ladies are, depending on what you're watching, are at what they actually do. We're not even talking about that anymore. What we're talking about, all interviews for all players at this point in time, and I'm putting all in quotes, okay? All interviews for all players boil down to, can you make some sort of political comment for me? None of it has to do with, hey, how's your shoulder after surgery? Mm-hmm. Or, hey, what was it like to be staring down a major league pitch for the first time in a live game, a game that mattered when opening day was supposed to happen in April and now it's in July.
All the questions
are about
to
politics.
The Yankees yesterday were about talk about the kneeling, talk about the kneeling.
So you're not even talking to these guys. So I promise you this. When they were 12 and participating in the Little League World Series, they weren't wanting to play baseball so they could make political statements. What the actual F is going on? And the news, right? I would love, this is why local news is actually like the only semblance of normal that you can find. Because at least the local news is talking about players and like how they're progressing and in their 6-person training camps. They're talking about, who's looking to be a starter here and who's probably going to get the backup role here. And then you turn on the national sports news and it's politics. Politics. Like, can you believe that this person had the temerity to say that he supports the American flag, and then Drew Brees has to apologize?
And even when they're not talking about politics, they're like, well, the union has entered into a new collective bargaining agreement. That's still politics. Mm-hmm. They're talking about union negotiations. Like, I mean, I long for the day, anyone who's ever seen the movie Dodgeball, I long for the day of ESPN Ocho, where it's just these obscure sports, like midget tossing. That's what they had in the movie. Like the obscure sports that you've never heard of, that don't have a league, barely have rules. I want them to find these obscure sports, and I'll watch that before I give MLB, NFL, NBA any of my money.
That's a bold move,
I know. Yeah, I'd rather watch like professional cornhole.
That's a thing.
Than watch. I know it is. I'd rather watch the World Series of Poker, which I hate. I hate. I'd watch anything over that. It's just.
Yeah.
What really infuriates me is they're trying to appease people that don't even watch their sports.
And that was going to be my last point, right? You do all these things, right? And you start to alienate the people who are actually funding, who actually pay to watch what you're producing, right? To buy the merchandise, right? To come to the games, to buy $15 beers 2 or 3 times during a game, right? The people who are screaming on Twitter about the Redskins' name being racist don't ever go to games. So you just remove the legacy of a franchise for people who have never, ever given you a single thing. I mentioned Disney earlier, right? The people who love the Star Wars franchise are not talking, they don't care about your wokeness. And the people who do care about your wokeness don't support your garbage, right? So money talks, and I promise you, the more this happens, ESPN's ratings were down. The NFL's ratings were down, right? They started to recover. You keep doing this, right? They started to recover when they stopped showing the beginning of games.
Yeah.
Right? It's Portland.
They literally stopped showing the national anthem. That's how they brought their ratings.
But then the problem is, because they weren't showing it, then they were interjecting it into the commentary. They're interjecting it into halftime. Every commercial that you watch is some sort of political statement, right? And then the end of the game, when they're interviewing them, all they talk about is who called who what and who's supposed to apologize to who for what, right? Like, wait a second. The score was 24-17. It was actually kind of exciting to watch. Can we please talk about the last second drive that you had to win the game?
Can we please talk about the alleged slur that was muttered at the line of scrimmage? Can we please talk about that?
Oh my goodness.
It's crazy. I mean, I watched more ESPN yesterday than I've watched in a while, and I hate myself for it.
I'm sorry for that.
But there was a case, a kid wanted to transfer from Mississippi State, because earlier this year, the coach tweeted out a tweet. It was a meme. It was an old woman, black and white photograph. She's knitting, and she's knitting a noose. And the meme said Glenda knitting after 2 weeks in quarantine with her husband. Like, she's knitting her husband a new scarf after 2 weeks of quarantine. The joke is that she wanted to kill her husband because she's been locked up for 2 weeks and no one's allowed to go outside. Right. They've been locked together for 2 weeks, and they're at each other's throat, and they want to kill each other, so she's knitting him a scarf, and it's actually a noose. The player on Mississippi State found that offensive because nooses are also used in lynchings. Mm-hmm. So he complained. The coach had to apologize, and then the player was allowed to transfer to Florida State instead.
Yeah. Did you?
That happened.
You know what else happened? You know what else is happening right now? So the Dodgers were selling for season ticket holders. You could buy, you could buy a cardboard cutout of yourself. Yeah, and they would put it in the stands at your seat. Yeah, right. Yeah, that's all. So Mary Hart, right? You know, the lady that introduced the South Dakota governor and Trump at the Mount Rushmore on July 4th. She's a season ticket holder for the Dodgers, and her seat is right behind home plate. She was former Miss America from South Dakota, right? So she's a Dodgers fan. So she paid for the cardboard cutout of her to be behind home plate. And now the Twitter mob is trying to get the Dodgers to remove her because when she was giving her introduction on July 4th, she had the temerity to use the OK sign. Oh, yeah. The OK sign that every single one of us knows means okay.
I did that yesterday, but only to show how big a circular object was. Not white power. It's not white power.
So and then people were responding, you know, with AOC giving the double white power sign, right? But I joked, right? You remember this? And I saw this happening years ago. There was the incident at I think it was the Army Navy game. No, it was at a base. Okay, so that happened. But then there was a kid. One at the Army Navy. Then there was a kid at a baseball game, right? Who did it behind. They were interviewing one of the managers, right, or bench coach or something like that, and the kid kind of got his face into the camera and then gave the OK symbol. Look. And I laughed when I did it. It's the circle game. Exactly, because I laughed. And my wife asked me, why are you laughing? And I said, because this is the game that every high school boy plays. And if I can get you to look at the circle, then I get to punch you in your mommy-daddy button, right? And that's all the kid was doing. He had to apologize for being a white racist. Give me a break.
To anyone who doesn't know, the circle game is current generation's form of punch buggy. Right, the idea if you see a Volkswagen Beetle, you get to punch your friend. Right, the circle game is you hold up an OK symbol and you don't just shove it in their face. You put it somewhere and you're hoping that they look at it. Right, and if you can catch them looking at it, you get to punch them.
Right,
it's the new version of the punch buggy game. And they call it racist. So when kids are doing it on camera, they're like, oh well, no, that 8-year-old's actually a white supremacist.
Right.
Stop it.
That 8-year-old is the most famous kid in his class because he gets to punch all of his classmates because they saw it. Yeah. Right? Like, give me a break. So they're trying to get her cardboard cutout. And as far as I know, I don't have my phone with me, but as far as I know, they haven't removed her, and I will say yet. Right? Because clearly
if she has the seat, if she has the seat, they wouldn't be able to get rid of her seat because of what she said or what she did an OK symbol. They wouldn't be able to kick her out of the stadium for that. They shouldn't be allowed to take her cardboard cutout because it's her seat. Mm-hmm. She pays for the seat.
They took her money.
They took her money. Yeah, it's interesting. The last thing, let's just get all sports out. The last thing I want to mention I found hilarious is the Toronto Blue Jays aren't allowed to play any baseball games in Canada because Canada won't let them do it.
Right.
So they are a team without a stadium. They are trying to figure out where they're going to play their games. They almost had an agreement with Pittsburgh to play where the Pirates play. But that deal fell apart yesterday because Pennsylvania thought it would be too dangerous, not for people to go in. They thought it would be too dangerous for another team every week, right, a couple teams every week, to be flying into the state. That's why Pennsylvania spiked that agreement. They couldn't get the Pennsylvania waiver because they didn't want four or five teams every week flying into the state. They already have the Philadelphia Phillies, right? So they already have teams flying into the state. They didn't want to double the amount of MLB teams flying into their state every week. That's why they spiked it. So the Toronto Blue Jays now, unless they can get Baltimore to let them play there, that's how stupid this is getting. Unless they can get Baltimore to agree to let them play there, the Toronto Blue Jays are just going to be an away team for the rest of the season. They're just going to, whatever team they're playing that week, they're going to be playing at that team's home field. They might be the home field, they might be the home team in name, but they'll be playing in front of their opponent's fans. That's the only solution.
Can't they find like a mid-market city? Call the mayor, call the governor of Nebraska. Play in Omaha. They have where the College World Series is played.
If there's no one in the stands, they could play at any minor league baseball stadium if they wanted to, as long as the fence is far enough.
Look, if you've been to the College World Series in Omaha can handle the Blue Jays, and Omaha actually has their own Blue Jays. I think Creighton University is in Omaha. They're the Blue Jays, so they're like already set up for it. Play there.
You would think that states even just be able to get a little bit more hotel revenue from these teams coming in. You'd think that cities and states would be courting them and wanting them to play their games there. But no, they are a team without a home.
So any city that doesn't have like a major league team that would have a minor league stadium, I guarantee you the people there would love the fact that the businesses there would love the fact, even if you're just delivering
Yankees
food
are going to come to town 10 times.
Yeah,
the Yankees are going to come to town 10 times. Like the Red Sox are coming to town 10 times.
We can't go watch it, obviously, right? But they're here, right? Look, if you've ever gone to the College World Series in Omaha, if you've ever actually gone there, it's amazing because I guarantee you the people of Omaha love the fact that the World Series is there. And they don't have any rooting interests. As far as I can recall, I can't recall like Nebraska ever getting there, and I don't think that Creighton's been there. But I don't know what other schools are around that area. But the point is, I guarantee you that the people love it when the baseball teams are there, right? And the businesses love it. And even if the Yankees couldn't go to a restaurant, right, the restaurants would still be delivering food to the hotels, right? There is actually value for. I'm surprised that like a mid-market team or city that doesn't have a professional team hasn't just raised their hand and said, come hang out in our city for the next 60 days and we'll make that happen for you. I'm shocked. Actually, I'm not, because then they'd probably get yelled at by leftists for, spreading coronavirus.
So for everyone keeping track at home, as we mentioned earlier this week, Joe Biden had 26 people on his live stream. This podcast today where we talked about sports, which is not typically what we talk about, so it's not our main audience's interest. We tripled the number of people that were on Joe Biden's podcast live stream earlier in the week. So thank you everyone for hitting the share button. Really appreciate it. Leave Sleepy Joe in the dust. As we close out, I just want to once again close out with playing the video of Anthony Fauci throwing the first pitch. Let's play cut one before we end the show.
In honor of the service and sacrifice of healthcare workers across the country, and in memory of all those who have lost their lives during the COVID-19 pandemic, we welcome Dr. Anthony Fauci, Director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, to throw out the ceremonial first pitch.
Listen, they're making it seem like people are
Pitching his
applauding him.
pitches, Nationals pitcher Sean Doolittle.
Well, here we go.
Dr. Fauci, when you're ready, it's your pitch.
And the wind-up, delivery, and it's into the batter's box.
Wait.
All right, let's put it there.
I can't believe he threw the
Right
ball
there.
at that lady. That was rude.
I think it's hilarious. We can't play the song, but the music that they played as he's walking off the mound. Yeah, you could do anything that you wanted to, and I can tell he obviously can't pitch, right? To play that song after that pitch, like the way you do the things you do, that's what they're playing as he's walking off, throwing it way left. I don't know. I thought that was adding insult to injury. So I guess as good a moment as any to wrap this show up there. Thanks, everyone, for listening. If you want to listen to the podcast in our audio version, we now have it available in more and more places. You can find it on Apple Podcasts if you have an iPhone, Google Play Store if you have an Android. You can find us on Spotify now. And sometime today, I think by the end of the day, we're also going to be on TuneIn. So if you have one of those Amazon Echo dots in your house and you're okay with that, because it's technically spying on you. If you're okay with the Amazon Echo dots in your house, you can actually listen to us on Amazon's own podcast service, TuneIn. We should be going live there sometime later in the day. And if you are listening and you want to watch the live stream where we play the full videos, make sure you check us out on Facebook, facebook.com/conservative daily, all one word. And we are also streaming on YouTube as well. If you're on Parler, make sure you check us out there at conservative daily, all one word. If you follow us, I'll be happy to follow you back. I think I have listed everywhere I have to list. It's funny, as we list more of these, as we put the podcast on more of these places, I'm contractually obligated to mention that they're there. So that's going to be it for this edition of the podcast. My name is Max McGuire. Thank you, Keith Jones, for filling in for Joe again today. Happy Super Friday. And remember that the fight to take back our country is not over, but the only way we win is if we all stand and fight together.